live from your favorite podcasting platform. It's Wednesday night with special guest Timmy Power Gamer. And here's your hosts, Chase and EK. That was great.
I thought you were going to do a hip-hop air horn there for a second. I was like, that's the wrong intro.
No, that's the wrong intro. I think that was
Yeah.
professional sounding. I think that was great.
Yeah, this is SNL, not Wild and Out. Big difference.
SNL, more like EDH. What? 3
Dang.
letters. No punches
Why didn't I
pulled.
think of that?
Psh, 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 psh.
But yeah,
Anyways.
that's right. This is your favorite podcast hosted by your two favorite Big Timmy idiots on the internet, Chase and EK.
Yeah.
If you want to support this show, Chase, how can they support this show? Because I think that's really cool.
Well, gee willikers, my good friend. I'm so glad you asked that question. You can support this show by finding us on all podcast platforms and subbing to us there. You can also find us on YouTube. And please feel free to leave a comment and a like. Show some support to us as it helps us defeat the evil algorithm overlords, as you so lovely put it.
It also gives us the good brain chemicals, which I'm really about these days. Spread
Yeah,
that positivity.
I need them. My brain needs the little scritches, you know?
So this episode's kind of a weird one, but also not really, because we're talking about our wheelhouse, which is deck building.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to talk about decks that Chase doesn't like to build, which is green decks, like anything related to the color green. Because you sort of, kind of, not really, but sort of, kind of did have an epiphany about green recently. And I wanted to talk about that because I thought that was so interesting.
I don't want to call it an epiphany so much as I am, testing out the waters. All right. I am sticking to my New Year's resolution that we set out however many episodes ago. I want to be a better deck builder, and that means being uncomfortable and quite literally eating my vegetables. So we're here today to talk about some vegetables.
We are here to talk about broccoli lands.
Well, they all look like broccoli to me.
So I guess the place to start would be to actually talk about green and kind of dissect why you don't like green.
Yes.
And to figure out why you don't like green, I guess we need to figure out what is green. So what's the first thing that you think of when you think of green?
The first word that comes to mind when I think of green is easy. That's the word that comes to mind is easy. I'm not saying, only people play green because it's easy color to play. It just, to me, it feels like everything is kind of handed to you in green. And I like to struggle a little bit to achieve things when I deck build or when I'm playing a deck. I like to, kind of do like the weird sort of it's always sunny connecting the lines on like the piece of
Pepe
paper or whatever.
Sylvia kind of
Pepe
vibe.
Sylvia. I like to pull Pepe Sylvia, and this isn't Pepe Sylvia. It's like Pennsylvania, like we get it. It's too easy for me.
I like to think of green, for better or worse, as the training wheels of Commander. Green is, kind of like we talked about before we started recording. Green is the best support color in Commander. Green lets you do your thing more consistently, a little bit better because you've got a little bit more mana and a little bit more card draw. Because what does green do best? Makes a lot of mana, draws a bunch of cards.
Yeah.
So
it's like looking at the top 100 cards on EDH for green, which we're not naming all 100, but like you have the top cards are Cultivate, Beast Within, Rampant Growth, Kodama's Reach, Farseek. Like those are all good pieces to run in non-green decks or decks that have green as a support color because it helps you get those other lands. To me, green just feels like it's a good way to help facilitate other strategies a little bit faster.
I'm going to cut you off there real quick. Literally 11 of the top 15 green cards, according to EDH are ramp cards.
Well, then there we go.
Like,
you see,
just straight up.
It's like I like to see green as like when you put green in another deck, you are drinking a Red Bull. Like you're gonna get there faster, Like it doesn't taste good, but you're gonna, And that's just kind of how I feel like with green is like it gets you where you need to go a lot quicker than you normally would be able to.
At the same time, though, just because green is the best support color, doesn't mean that it doesn't have its own problems. Like,
Mhm.
um, green's removal in particular is something that I actually consider like the biggest fatal flaw of green. I
Mhm.
don't think the removal is great in green. It exists,
Yeah.
but it's kind of its own entity.
I would agree with that statement. Green, I because when you said that originally, I'm gonna be extremely honest because
Yeah.
I also want to acknowledge my flaws with like, deck building. Nobody's perfect. And when you said green struggles a little bit with removal, in my head, I was like, what are you talking about? No, it doesn't. But then I took a minute and realized, okay, green only has one really common, consistent, flat out removal for anything beast within. But largely, green's removal focuses on artifacts and enchantments. You don't really have a lot of creature removal unless it's some of the weirder things, like there's fight spells, which is technically removal in green because you have a lot of big creatures you can fight and kill off a lot of
But
smaller
you
things your
always
opponents
need
have.
a second card for that
Mhm.
fight spell to work.
Yeah.
Green technically does have removal. It's just very old and it's very weird. Way back when, let's get in the time machine. Let's go back to the 90s.
All right, lay it on me.
The red card Earthquake,
Mhm.
uh, which is an X spell. You're very familiar with it. Deals damage to each creature without flying and each player. Sort
Hurricane.
of. Yeah.
I love Hurricane. I do like Hurricane.
Green has a reverse Earthquake where it
Yes.
only hits flyers and players. So just throughout the history of green, it's just always been doing the opposite of what all the other colors have been doing.
Mhm.
Like green technically does have a wrath. Uh, I would technically sort of consider Azorius Predation are a green wrath, but it's 8
Yes.
mana. It only deals upwards of 4 damage. Like you need damage doublers or token doublers to be able to scale up and remove anything bigger than 4 toughness. But anything that survives, you get to keep. So then you just get a board out of it. That segues into something interesting that you've mentioned in the past,
Mhm.
where like green's removal is basically player removal.
Yes, it is.
What do you do when you play all of these big green creatures and you need to do player removal?
It
You go to combat. The
yeah,
thing that
and
you don't like to do.
I was about to say, because like, and I'm really glad you brought this up because I really do think that Green's removal is built into its creatures and the fact that you get these big creatures, you swing and you win. And of course, there's like very big pump spells, but like I don't like moving to combat. I'm tentative. I'm a very cautious player. I don't like to overextend, and I feel like I tend to do that when I move to combat, so I tend to hold back. But like what is it? Finale of Devastation is a
Mhm.
great win conning green that to me doesn't read as tutor. It reads as I'm going to kill you now because it is that good.
That then and there, I'm pretty sure that's like the reason why you haven't given green a chance.
Mhm.
Between that and feeling kind of pigeonholed, but at the same time, like I don't think green pigeonholes anybody. I think green opens up possibilities.
I I view green more as and I view green more as a way to help other colors to and
Mhm.
that's my own personal, issues with deck building. I don't see it as its own independent color with its own strengths. I just solely view it as like you said, the training wheels. But I really have been wanting to change that. Um just because like to me green feels like it's too easy and it hands me everything and that's why I'm trying to like find ways to not do that in my own personal journey. We've kind of talked a little bit about in here that that was one of my New Year's resolutions is wanting to make myself build something green. And at first I thought I was going to do it by running multiple colors and then green and then kind of whittle my way down until I'm just mono green, but that just didn't really feel like fun to me and so I'm kind of throwing myself into the deep end of green gooey goopiness and just doing mono green right out of the gate.
So I guess that begs the question: where you at, like you're starting with mono green, but like where would you actually want to start? Uh, like, are you going all the way and like trying to find a polar extreme, or there's this case of finding something that you like to do in other colors
Mhm.
and trying to do it in a green way?
I really want to not find comfort in this. I really don't wanna find comfort in this because, we've talked about this before. I feel like deck building is like, working out a muscle, and I haven't been hitting green, at all,
Mhm.
and, like, I
Yeah,
really
you've
wanna,
been
like,
skipping
push
leg day?
myself. Essentially, with green, I've been skipping leg day, and it's my greatest weakness, and I really want to just kind of dive head first and just kind of figure out how green is, and weirdly enough, that process for me is finding cards in the 99 I like as opposed to finding a commander I like because I even posted a poll, not even a poll on Twitter, I posted a question on Twitter being like, "What are some good green commanders you think I would like?" And I'm just not really finding anything that fits me right now, it's weird.
I mean, that's actually part of the reason why my initial thought for trying to explore green in a broader way was to find a commander that wasn't mono green and then just focusing heavily on green in your 99. Because the build arounds
Mhm,
in the 99 are a lot more compelling than just a dork in the command zone or just a big thing like Thrun in the command
mhm.
zone. I think you can have a lot more fun playing your wild pairs. Play that lets you, tutor matching power toughness sort of stuff. So like picking a number, finding a theme that way, or just building around like lurking predators and playing 60 creatures in your deck and putting everything on a stick. Or even like one of my favorite cards these days for green is Unbound Flourishing, and this is one that I thought that you would find your way towards. This is an enchantment. Whenever you cast a permanent spell with a mana that contains X, double the value of X. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery or activate an ability, if that spell's mana cost or that ability's activation cost contains X, copy that spell or ability. You can choose new targets for the copy. And see, like that feels like a very is it thing to do in green. So I found it interesting that you maybe didn't end up in that direction first. But it makes sense because you are trying to do something completely different.
Well, that's exactly the reason why I don't like it. It's too similar to things I already do. It's too similar
Hmm.
to things I already like. And the whole point of this like exercise for me is to be uncomfortable. And so I really don't want to like lean on like things that feel good. Like I on my post when I was like I really want to do a green commander, somebody was like you should do Xyrus the Writhing Storm, which is two and a green and blue and red, and it does like wheel things. And the reason
Hmm.
why I didn't want to do that is because it does wheel things. I have a Locust God deck. It's literally basically kind of the same thing. I really don't want to do that. It just feels too similar to things that I already feel comfortable with. And I mean, there's even like that one Sultai X Spell Commander, and I did a deck build with that before too, and again, it just felt too themey. It didn't feel green. It felt like, okay, we're just gonna get excess value off of X spells, and it leaned more towards green's um ease of access that I didn't have fun with it. It felt like again, green was helping me hand me things, and it also included, like, alt-win cons like Helix Pinnacle, which I love Helix Pinnacle, but, like,
Hmm.
I wanna win in a way that doesn't involve me having a gluttonous amount of resources, you know? I'm trying to move to combat.
So I'm identifying a common denominator with these commanders. Xyrus aside,
Yes.
because Zaxara, the Sultai commander that you're talking about, is also a mana dork.
Yep. I just
Zaxara is a 4 mana 2/3. You can tap it to add 2 mana of any color, and then when you cast the X spells, you create the Hydras. But it is a mana dork,
It is.
and it
It's
just sounds like you don't like mana dorks.
No, because I like mana dorks. I like mana, I like doing things, like, I know
Hmm.
mana rocks aren't mana dorks, but, like, I mean, in my head they are, but, like, I have an Alibu deck, and I have run a gluttonous amount of mana rocks because you wanna have a bunch of tapped things, and,
Hmm.
like, even, like, Raga Draga cares about mana dorks, but that just
Yeah,
feels, again, themey. It feels themey, it feels like a gimmick, like, "This is my mana dork deck, this is my X spell deck, this is my bear deck, my elf
sure.
deck." It's like, I don't wanna have a theme. I just wanna be green. Maybe I'm being too
So
picky.
you're And this brings up this compelling angle. You don't want to do a theme deck like one way or another, whether that's just expels or dorks. Uh, you're in this gray area where if you're not beholden to a specific theme,
Mhm.
you're riding that fine line of just being a good stuff pile. But I know you don't want to play a good stuff pile either. But that's the thing with green that a lot of people kind of just immediately go to. And
Yeah.
I can see the look on your face right now is like light bulbs just firing off.
Cause it's really true. It's really true because, like, I find theme decks only to be fun when I'm really invested in a color or I'm really
Hmm.
invested in the theme. Like, if someone kinda hands me a theme, I'm not really into it. But if, like, my Morph on the Thing deck, that's a theme I've been cultivating for, like, months now, and I'm just lazy and I haven't finished it. But, like, offhandedly, I don't wanna be like, I want a good green commander, and someone goes, okay, here's a Finn the Fangbearer, Death Touch, Poison, Infect deck. To me, that doesn't really make it fun. And I, you were there for this because when we were in Philly in our little mystery booster packs, my little bonus card in one of them was a Selvala. And I had
Yeah.
a lot of people recommending Selvala to me. It's mono green Selvala, which I actually have in front of me here. And Selvala is just like a good stuff commander. 3 mana, 2/3. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, its controller may draw a card if its power is greater than each other creature's power. And then you can tap a green and tap it. Add X mana and any combination of colors to your mana pool, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. And that's a really good commander, and that's like quintessentially green, but you're also right. This lends itself to good stuff green, ease of
Combo
access, what have
shenanigans.
you.
Yeah.
Yes, and I don't like that, but
Now,
I
can
don't know.
I pitch you on a Selvala? I'm gonna pitch you on two Selvala concepts, and one of them I know you're interested in because it's on the list. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
start with the other one first.
Okay.
You can build Selvala as a group hug deck because it's anybody
Maybe.
playing the largest creature gets to draw the card.
Fair.
There's a lot of different effects like Heartbeat of Spring that let people make more mana. You're essentially just feeding the chaos of the table. But at the end of the day,
Mhm.
you're the biggest, dumbest, greenest player at the table. You're going to have the biggest, dumbest, greenest creatures. So you give this false sense of hope for the table.
That is not a bad idea. I the lilt in my voice also, you can gather my
Yeah, you're
hesitancy
like,
from it. Oh,
it's
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 like
almost there, but it's not, but it is.
it's it's like I don't know what it is about the color. I really don't know what it is about the color. Maybe it looks like broccoli. I like eating broccoli, but, like, when I look at it, I'm like, it's not giving me the brain sparks that I usually
Yeah,
get with deck building. Because you and I really prescribe to the Marie Kondo method of deck building where you build what
heck yeah,
brings you
we do.
joy. And, I won't go through with the build if I don't find it to do that for me in some capacity. And I don't know what it is. Like, there are green creatures that I see that excite
Hmm.
me, or green cards that excite me, but nothing as a commander, which I find really interesting. A lot of good green pieces that aren't even support pieces, but
They're
nothing
just
in the
good
legendary.
cards.
Yeah, that I find fun, that I find interesting, like Unnatural Growth. I think that's an insane card. I think it's fun. I
I
think it's
love this card.
cool. I would run it. Heartbeat. I almost bought one this weekend at SCG Con Charlotte. I was this close to buying it, but I was like, my friend owes me money, so I'll just have him get me an Unnatural Growth instead.
Now, here's something interesting. You said you love unnatural growth.
Yes, I do.
Did you know? Well, did you know that you can play unnatural growth in the command zone thanks to Phyrexia All Be One? This is totally reading like a radio ad right now, and I don't mean it. I don't mean for it to do so, but I'm gonna try and sell you on Zopandrel Hunger Dominus, which is literally unnatural growth in the command zone. It's a 4/6 with reach. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn, and then you can do the Phyrexian mana indestructible thing by sacrificing some creatures.
You know what? I'm a little mad. I'm gonna tell you
Because you
why.
gave me your
Yes, it is.
Zopandrel that you
Yes.
opened in your
Yes.
packs in Philly.
Yes, I did. I okay. Okay. So I'm really glad you remember that because when we were in Philly, we got our
I
little
have it on the desk
packs.
right here.
And I have
I have
my
the receipts.
Teguthal here too. I I opened that little dude, that little green guy. I remember I opened him and I was like, "Ooh, it's green." Bleh. And then you were like, "Oh, I opened Teguthal." And it was the alt art.
In the foil, the one that you wanted, and I
And
was
I
like,
was like,
"Hey,
"Do you want to trade?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." We just literally chucked them across each other the room and we switched. And I'm like, I'm a little salty at myself because I feel like if I were to do green, I mean, it's not super expensive now like it was during
no," and you can
Philly,
get
but
that,
like,
like, super dope oil slicked one now too.
ooh, oh, yeah, that's true. And the super dope oil slick isn't that expensive. It's like what, 15 bucks
Yeah,
at this current moment.
and it
I could do
by the
that.
time this episode releases tomorrow, it'll be even cheaper.
Yes, honestly. So here's the deal. Here's the deal. This is not a commander I considered. Right now, it is probably in the lead. Like, it still isn't giving me the little brain sparky poos. It's not. But it is up here compared to Selvala, who's right here. Like I have Selvala at a convenience, all right? Um
Well, can I, I was about to say, can I blow your mind with one of your other favorite green cards and Zopandrel together? But it doesn't work,
okay.
so never mind. Uh, I know how much like you've mentioned Colonian Hydra like several times in the last like hour and a half, which is this 0/0 for 5 mana with trample. It enters with counters on it. When it attacks, double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Doesn't
So
double power and toughness.
that's actually not the card I referenced. You're thinking
Ooh.
Colonian Hydra. Mine is Colony Hydra. Big difference. Colony Hydra is a green, 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 8/8 that costs one green pip less for each green creature you control. There's a big difference between those two cards, and can you kind of tell what green cards spike my interest is the weird, like, impossible it's
Big
Colony
dumb
Hydra.
idiots. Like just the
Yeah.
weirdest dumb idiot. So you like this one, but you don't like Gigantosaurus, which
Yes.
is
Now,
green,
here's the
green,
deal.
green, green, green for a 10/10.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why.
There's a
Um,
nuanced opinion here, I can tell.
there is 2 reasons. One makes total sense. The other doesn't make sense. We'll
Sure.
start with the one that makes sense. The one that makes sense is, to me, Colony Hydra, like, yes, it does cost 1 green pip less for each green creature you control, but to me, that feels like they're not the same by any means, but in my head, I'm like, "Wow, this is kinda like a green Storm Herd," where it has a really obscene mana value, like, and it gives you an interesting payoff. Like, it doesn't scale to Stormheart because Stormheart is, like, up here in terms of power level. It's, like, a
Yeah.
super high mana value and stuff. But, like, when I see a card with that intensive a mana value, my brain goes, "How can I cheat that?" You know? And I was able to do that with Stormheart and Elminster, but with Colony Hydra, I'm just like, with green, just have some green little dudes on the battlefield, and you just poop them out.
You gotta play green for green to be able to cheat
Thank
Kalani Hydra.
There it is. You see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't need support colors because it needs itself. That is it.
It just
Now
needs family. It just needs
yeah,
family.
it
Like,
needs
this is
family.
the Fast and Furious of green cards.
No, it's not. Don't make me hate it. Don't make me dislike Colony Hydra after I just told you I liked it. The reason why
Well,
I
see,
like
I
this
thought you were
card
talking about a totally different card, so we are, like,
No,
in
I love
completely
Colonian
different realms to
Hydra.
begin with.
No, you're good. I love Colonian Hydra. Don't get me wrong, it's a fun card. It just sits on the battlefield and then you're good. But like I like
Mhm.
this one because you have to do weird stuff to get to it. Now, the reason
Sure.
I like this more than Gigantosaurus, the weird reason, um, is because I the art for Gigantosaurus makes me want to scream. I hate it. But I really like this art with the border and the mythic red set symbol, but
Yeah.
Gigantosaurus is just like, what? Okay, a dinosaur with a poopy little M19 gold symbol. Get out of here. I like my symbols weird and red. You know, it just doesn't
You
hit.
like the older border.
I do.
That's fine to say that.
Okay.
Now, you like Kalani Hydra. Can I introduce you to Thrasta?
Yes, you can.
It's not like Shasta, the old drink. This is Thrasta, Tempest Roar from
Okay.
Modern Horizons 2. So this is 10
Uh,
and 2 green. It's a legendary dinosaur. The spell costs 3 less for each other spell you cast this turn. The more green idiots that you're playing in your turn, the cheaper it gets. So this could be a 2 mana 7/7 with trample
mhm.
and haste, and it has trample over planeswalkers, which is weird green rules text. But it involves destroying planeswalkers, so I'm sure that's gonna like convince you otherwise.
Do you remember when there used to be a rule that like cards shouldn't have what more than 3 to 4 lines of text? I remember that rule. That's a lot of lines of text. That's one, 2, 3, 4, technically 5 or 6 if you exclude the little parentheses. That's a
Yeah,
lot of
I'm
lines of
I'm including
text.
them.
So probably 8 or 9, but,
Yeah.
like the trip over Planeswalkers makes me sad, but that's just because I like Planeswalkers. That's not to the detriment of the card or the card
Mhm.
design. I actually think we should see more of that low key because Planeswalkers are kinda rough. That being
We
said,
hey, we did an
again,
episode on that.
we did do an episode on that as a Planeswalker lover
It's up in the
extraordinaire.
corner right now if you're watching on YouTube.
Bing! But, like, Thrasta, I don't know. I, like, look at it and I'm like, like, I look at it, it just seems so easy. I don't know what it is. Like, it's like, yeah, it's 12 mana, but so is Galta, right? Galta's like, what, 12 mana? More?
Galta's 12
Question
mana,
mark?
but it is easier discount than Thrasta.
I mean, is easier. It's still not doable. 3 less to cast is still a pretty big chunk. What all you have to do is like if you have multiple land drops a turn, which green is easily able to do,
Yeah.
or you just like if you cast like a rampant growth of Farseek and let's just throw out a
A dork.
nature's lore. Then there you go. You're able to probably poop out a
Yeah.
Thrasta pretty quick. To me, that just feels kind of like I don't know. I would rather walk the weird line to get to like Colony Hydra, which does discount just like Thrasta, but
Mhm.
this to me just doesn't, it doesn't give me the
And
brainstorm,
Galta has, like, a similar discount too, where you just have to have the power in play, and you
which
can
is
get a
so
2 mana
easy and green.
12/12.
You sneeze and you hit that with Galta. I'm sorry, and I have a Galta. I have that pretty little secret lair version, but I'm like,
Yeah, I love that one.
it just takes nothing for Galta. It's like Galta's like Blasphemous Act in red. Like Blasphemous Act technically is 9 mana. You're not gonna pay 9 mana for Blasphemous Act.
For as far as anyone's concerned, they are part of the same cycle. They just came out 7
Years.
or 8 years apart from each
There was a
other.
delay.
They're just completing the cycle.
Yeah, slowly but surely. It just doesn't hit for me. But I could see why you recommended it. It's different.
Mhm.
It destroys what I love, and sometimes you have to embrace what hurts, but I'm just
You're
never gonna
trying
find
to
out.
do something completely different, and you
Mhm.
usually advocate for ignoring planeswalkers and doing player removal instead of planeswalker removal, and it's usually to the detriment of everyone else at the table. So
Yeah.
I am trying to show you a card that says, "Hey, that thing that you are trying not to do, you have to do it now. You're encouraged to
Yeah.
do it now."
Yeah.
This
I
is
can
an
see it.
exercise in comfort zones, Chase.
It is well, the thing is the trample for planeswalker actually doesn't even like make me uncomfortable. It just this is gonna sound so mean. I don't want it to sound mean, but this card kind of bores me. It just feels like here's another good green thing with a lot of text. It's not like questing beast levels of gluttonous, but it's
Mhm.
just like okay, here's another good thing, here you go. And like I know that, there obviously this is an older design and we're seeing better green designs in my opinion
Chase,
as
this
of
card's
late.
like barely 2 years old.
Okay, you are not the first person to tell me this. So I'm sorry, but if a card came out 2 years ago,
Not even
it's
2 years. This
old.
is Modern Horizons 2. This is
It's
like
old. To
alright,
me it's old.
I feel like you're calling me a boomer for talking about a
No,
card that's, like, a little bit
I'm
older.
s- I'm just saying that
And you
the
wanna defend Colony Hydra, which is, like, 12
yes.
or 13 years old?
Yes. Okay, so I'm not
Like,
saying that
that's
this card is
2009.
okay, I'm not Now I'm getting all befuddled and my bangs are looking weird. I'm basically what I'm trying to say is that look at this. Oh my god. So what I'm trying to say is that Jesus, you have me stressed out. So it doesn't matter like how old or new the card is. It just for me, this just seems like that era of green that was like fuzzy in terms of where it was like I think this is the last remnants of the era of green where Wizards finally started paying attention to people's criticisms of the color and started trying to find different and unique ways to create green cards. And we all know that these sets are made years in advance. So, like, obviously, it takes time to implement change. And I think we finally started seeing this change implemented right around after Modern Horizons 2 came out,
It
which is
was,
why I'm saying it's old.
actually Eldraine, um, that they kind of marked the, like, rework and redesign of green.
Uh,
So it's been happening for a little bit longer than you think.
I will,
It's
no, I wouldn't even
the
say.
critical mass of cards, however, is
Well, I was gonna say,
definitely
Questing Beast came out in Eldraine.
yeah.
I think that's the old era of green gets everything. To me, that's still in that era. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, okay, okay. So you're saying we're on like a third era of green then, because there's like Kalani Hydra era of green. There's
Yes.
like Eldraine to modernish, like Modern Horizons one kind of green, and then
Yes.
now there's this like new big dumb idiot green, but it's just big
Yes.
dumb idiots. They don't staple
Yes.
everything onto the card. They want you playing it across three cards that can be
Mhm.
efficiently played, but you still have to have
Mhm.
the three cards to do everything that a questing beast would do. You still have to have the three
Yes.
cards that do everything a great henge would do, and so
Yes.
on.
So I'm yes, exactly, because there was I'm too young for this because I didn't play Magic around this area, but I'm coining them era 1, era 2, era 3. We're using Steven Universe language here. So
Sure, sure,
era
sure.
1, I know a lot of people used to say, well, green's really bad, green's really horrible, green is unplayable. And then you see that transition into era 2, where green is suddenly getting really good, really strong, really powerful, really supportive. People start to complain a lot about green getting everything. And for a while it did, because again, you have I feel like Questing Beast is literally the poster child for Era 2. Because I mean, there's even a website called like Questing Beast Generator where you can
Still
generate your own
is.
Questing Beast.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So like there was that area. And now we're seeing this transition into Era 3 of green where we're seeing more meaningful, thoughtful design with green about power level and ease of access. And I feel like you could even like map white, as kind of like on top of this, as
Yeah.
you're seeing this change in white too, we're seeing this change in green as well. And I find myself enjoying green cards more now than I did in that Eldraine area when you had like Great Henge and Questing Beast and all those gluttonous pieces, Galta. I mean, just things that were literally like you sneeze and you get something good. To me, that was boring. And that was like the main meat of when I played Magic was that era too.
So you wanna like embrace the janky kind of like weird stuff of World Wake and Rise of the Eldrazi, 2007 to 2012, 2013, and the stuff happening like right now. You just want to kind of skip that middle part
Yeah.
in terms of the things that you like.
Yeah. I really want to achieve that feeling of like excitement of being able to do the impossible, cuz Commander is all about being able to achieve something that you wouldn't normally be able to do in another format like modern or standard or what have you. And pieces like Colony Hydra and Primal Crux with very crazy mana values seems to kind of be what I'm attracted to in terms of a green play style, because it's big, it's green, it's dumb. I want to try and do that. Or even like unconventional forms of green, like that I haven't experienced. So, like, we've talked a lot about Wave of Vitriol on this show. You
Big
opened my
fan.
eyes to Wave of Vitriol, and it's an unconventional form of green removal that I find to be fascinating. And I don't really see that pop up in any colors. So, I can't say, oh, I can do this in red or I can do this in black. I can do that in green. you know? I
Yeah.
can get a wave of vitriol effect in green, and to my knowledge, I can't really find it anywhere else, and I just think that's way more interesting and exciting and unique and big and dumb.
So I will say, there are cards like Wave of Vitriol that exist in other colors. You just won't be invited back to that table.
Okay,
Like Obliteration and Worldfire
fair.
and stuff like that. Yeah, that's basically Wave of
Yep.
Vitriol is those cards, but like a little bit more socially acceptable. I think that's a good way of putting it.
Mhm. I would agree with that. But, like, I feel like era 1 green is where I wanna live. Era 2 green is something I want to avoid like the plague. Era 3, I find to be, um, kind of walking the line between the 2. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, it's a mixture of both, and I'm okay with that. And I'm liking what I'm seeing, but, like, I think the only mono green commander from this new era that you told me about is that one Phyrexia All Will Be One, because I
Yeah.
find that to be, again, a good commander, but it still has that big dumb Timmy thing going on that I really wanna get in touch with, because I don't even know if I fit into a Timmy playstyle, because I don't swing, but I wanna have the bravery to swing, you
This
know?
will at the very least, like there's this cool thing with how card design has been going the last while, and it actually dips into some of this like middle era of cards in a way that a lot of people don't tend to explore very often because
Mhm.
like around Tarkir and Ixalan and Amonkhet, green was making large creatures. It's just that
Mhm.
a lot of the support pieces for those cards were things like Rishkar's Expertise or Shamanic Revelation, where you're
Yes.
rewarded for having lots of creatures and you're rewarded for having big creatures. And
Yes.
the way that you get rewarded is by drawing cards, uh, which then just lets you do even bigger stuff and even dumber stuff. Like it allows you to
Mhm.
have more lands to drop down with Azusa. It has, it gives you more hydras to play. It gives you a bigger chance of drawing that unnatural growth that you're so desperately trying to play. Because I
Mhm.
know you want to live the dream of having Zopendrel and unnatural growth on the table at the exact same time.
Yes, I wanna do that. I really wanna do
So
that.
you can
It's
quad
excessive in the best
all of your
way.
creatures.
Yeah. I think that would be so fun. I love that.
Yeah, so I think like those like hallmark, like buzzwordy kind of cards are kind of
Mhm.
where you get lost in that middle era of green, but the support pieces are exactly what you're looking for because those
Mhm.
support pieces lay the groundwork for you to do this just big Timmy play style that you want to
Mhm.
embrace,
Yeah.
but in a way that's gonna make it so that you're not just sitting there at the table. Because the last thing that anyone wants to do when they're sitting at a commander table is to just kind of land pass and kind of like maybe play a card and that's
Yeah.
it.
That's a worry of mine with this. Cause I don't wanna do this because I don't want to avoid quote unquote "staples." That's not what I want, but I do want
Hmm.
to avoid high value pieces.
Yeah.
And, like, I also trying to implement a tactic that I picked up from you. I know that earlier I said, Colony Hydra kinda makes me think of Stormherd in terms of mana value, but I know they're not equal.
Hmm.
This I feel like is equal is one that I actually already own because 'cause I've already bought it, is Primal Surge. I
Hell
feel
yeah.
like that's
Speaking my
I feel
language.
Yep, I bought a Primal Surge and literally posted it on Twitter, and somebody said that you were a bad influence. So you have
Multiple people did.
you have an association with this piece, but I was
That's
like,
my brand.
I played your Samet deck when we were in Philly, and I had a blast with it. I did, it was great. It was too fast for what I wanted, but
That game in
I
general was just incredibly sped up because of the decks that we were playing with.
of course, of course.
So you were kind of forced into that. I need to be able to keep up with this. Fortunately, you were able
Mhm.
to do so, but like you said, it kind of just wasn't the experience that you were looking for.
Yeah.
This is me looking onward as someone who didn't participate in the game, but was in that game.
You won vicariously through me though, because I did win through
Yes, I
Primal
did.
Surge.
Yes, you did. And the
But, like,
look on Ben and Cass's face when you dropped that, you're like, oh. Okay.
Well,
That's a thing.
you looked at me and you were like, "You have the win on board," and you were like, "No, Chase," because that board wipe happened, because Ben did
Yeah.
that board wipe, and you're like,
Yeah,
"No,
yeah, yeah,
Chase,"
yeah.
and because I had cast a Dockside, so I had a ton of mana,
Yeah.
and you were like, "No, Chase, you had the win," and I was like, "I'm okay," and you were like, "Oh god," and then I just passed the
Okay, I
turn.
trust you. Yeah.
I think I played Samet and I just cast Primal Surge and I just dumped the whole deck on the battlefield. I was like,
Yep.
I'm okay. I still have the win.
Yeah.
Because it was cool and it was fun. And I want to do something like that. Like Primal Surge is that ultimate penultimate thing for Commander to me, like Stormherd is for me in my
Yeah.
Elminster deck. It is you get to do something big and obscene that you normally wouldn't be able to do in another format. And that's why no matter what I want to do, I really want to try and like lean into this level of green. I just find it
Yeah,
to be what works.
it's also a departure from what you're used to. Like, you're a spellslinger player in a weird way, or like in a I don't know, like planeswalkers are kind of spell slingy with the way that you're playing them in Kadric, or with the way that you're playing artifacts in Alibu. You're playing like very spell slingy kind of this and that kind of artifacts. Whereas Primals are just saying, what if everything was a creature?
But that's really why I like Primal Surge so much because it it does the thing that I always want to do in Commander, which is the impossible. I want to be able to do the big thing and have this big explosive finish in a fun way that's unique and exciting. And I feel like I can't get that in other formats. And at the end of the day, Primal Surge is kind of at that heart of the green deck I want to have. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Bad at Magic. If you don't know who I am, my name is Chase, also known as Mana Curves. I stream Paper Commander and deck building on my Twitch channel, and you can also find me writing articles for Star City Games.
And I'm at EK Plays Cards on all of the things. I work behind the scenes with a lot of your favorite Commander content creators. So if you're supporting a lot of other community creators, you're probably supporting me too, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate when you support the show, and you can do so by leaving a like, a comment, a review, any of that kind of stuff. Engage with that algorithm, give us those good brain chemicals, because it really does help out the show.